Welcome. I hope you enjoy the conversation you're about to see between me and another comedian about religion and comedy. These are conversations I'm calling disorganized religion. God bless. And for those atheists out there, may nothing await you after this life.
Hey nerds, welcome to another edition of Disorganized Religion, the COVID series that will never end, the pandemic that cannot be defeated. I am your host, Seth Lawrence, as always, and this week I am joined by a good friend that I've seen on the LA scene and was actually starstruck because when I first saw him, it was on TV. His name is DJ Demers. Thank you so much for joining us, DJ.
Thank you very much for having me, Seth. It's great to see your beautiful face, even if it's just over Zoom.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. You too. You're looking good. How have you been keeping up during quarantine? You working out?
Nope. I feel like doing absolutely nothing. Really, just keeping the miles low on the odometer,
Sure.
not moving a whole lot. No,
Yeah.
I'm running. I'm running a little bit, and it's half exercise and half just to I gotta move or else I'm gonna go insane.
Yeah.
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 How about
Yeah.
you?
I can understand that. I every morning wake up with the full intent of working out, and then
Mm-hmm.
I reach this point. I'm like, oh, I didn't work out today. Well, maybe tomorrow. So there's not much going on.
Well, there's no
In that.
motivation. You're like, for what?
Yeah, exactly. My wife knew what she was getting into when she married me, and we can't get divorced now. We're stuck, right? Hasn't the pandemic xed all divorces? It's not happening.
I wonder if there's actually a surge.
Yeah, I think they're up. I mean, this is hopefully the saddest point of our podcast episode. I think divorces are up, and I think domestic violence is up, which is really terrible.
Yes. Yeah. I knew about the domestic violence and the number of calls to the hotlines are up, but those don't even really tell the whole story because people can't even escape to make the call anymore because they're trapped with these abusers. So yeah, that's a really unfortunate byproduct of this overall unfortunate situation. Not a whole lot of silver linings in this whole pandemic.
No, not many. I mean, are you, I contacted you over Instagram. You said you're trying to get off social media. Maybe that's one silver lining. People are trying to stay away from the fear mongers on social media. Was that part of it for you?
Fear mongering for sure on Twitter. Twitter, not just fear mongering, but I feel like Twitter causes me to focus too much on micro rather than macro. So I know every little thing that's happening in a day. This guy got killed in this city, the disease spiked in this, continent, whatever. But because I'm so absorbed by it, I don't step back and kind of take a look at the macro of it all.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is the one I'm trying to get off now because that was kind of my main vice, and I feel like that is just pure distraction without even information. Like Twitter, at least I'm like, oh, I know too much, but at least I know something. Whereas Instagram is just a pure distraction machine, and it just dawned on me that this pandemic is going to end in a year, or hopefully whenever it ends, and I will have not grown or learned anything because I just distracted myself with the same bullshit that I would during normal times.
Right. Oh, interesting.
So I'm on my high horse right now, but it's only been 14 days off of Instagram. But
you got to ride the wave while you're on it,
I feel good. It feels like I'm really coming off an addiction, though. It really does.
Yeah. You feel the withdrawals,
big time.
Yeah.
Big time. I'm just like, I wonder what's going on. Well, I saw your message on Instagram because I was about 10 days into it, and I opened it. And then I was like, oh, shit. I told you to email me, and then I logged off, and I haven't been back on since.
I try to be a force for good, but every once in a while I'm a force for evil. So I'm sorry for drawing you in for the brief moments.
No, I didn't know your message was what was going to be waiting for me. So,
right.
You know what I mean? You weren't the force. You were like the carrot at the end of the stick.
Oh, good, good.
I don't know if that analogy is correct, but
maybe so. But it also maybe it was enough of a prick of your conscience because your first message back was like, "I'd love to, but contact me via email. I'm trying to stay off social media." So it was like maybe a little bit of a reminder. Someone's out there watching you, DJ.
Yeah.
You getting on TikTok or no? Have you fallen into?
Dude, I downloaded TikTok and I had it for a week.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is going to sound terrible, but I don't know how else to say it. Like, if you're over like 30 years old and you're on TikTok, I feel like you should immediately be put on a list.
Well, you are. That's what TikTok is. It's a Chinese
Well, yeah.
list.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm going to give my information to somebody, it's going to be the American government because I'm a patriot, damn it.
That's
But
right.
I mean the list of like people who like looking at 16-year-old girls dancing, because I didn't follow anybody, and that For You page, that's all it showed
Yeah.
me. And then within a week, I found my brain like going like, "Ooh, she's cute." And I'm like, "No, she's 16. Get the hell off of this app."
Yeah, well, I mean, in your defense, no one knows how old these women are that are dancing on TikTok. No one has any idea. They don't post
That's not
it.
just my defense. That's also the Chris D'Elia defense.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunate that I don't even know what to say about that whole situation. It's terrible. All sides of it are bad, Anyway.
Yeah. But going back to TikTok, I don't want to, there's not enough facts in that. I guess there are. Anyway, you're right. I don't want to talk about the Chris D'Elia thing because, the whole thing, even when I've heard people like, his friend left him so quick, and then other people really defended him, but everybody that defended him made you go, do they have skeletons as well? Like, there's no way to talk about it without seeming. Anyway, go back to TikTok. The thing about TikTok is all the things that happen, the memes and the trends, they're all very juvenile adolescent things that I don't need to revisit.
Right.
Like there's a thing where like girls would like pretend to like bend down like they were going to give their boyfriend a blowjob, but then they would just pick something up from underneath the couch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would have titillated me when I was like 18 or something, but I'm a 34-year-old grown-ass man. I don't need to watch videos of this.
Yeah.
It was just regressing me in my maturity level.
Yeah.
Anyway, are you on it?
I mean, I have it to just watch the girls dance. That's all I have it for. No, I got it. I love, there are people that will post baby videos on it, and I'm on there for the positivity. I just want to see fun, happy things. I know there are lots of other things going on TikTok, and that it can bring out some of the dregs of society and some of the weird, but I don't want any of that. I just want happy babies. That's all I care about.
So when you first went on and you didn't follow anybody, it didn't do the same thing to you that it did to me? It wasn't just teenage girl after teenage girl?
Oh no, it did almost the exact same thing. But I started following. There's this guy, Dinosaur, or what's it called, Datasaur. He's gotten fairly famous, and so my kids love it. My kids love that guy. So we'll watch that family that posts stuff, and I think they have some sort of algorithm on how long you stay on a video and if you rewatch a video, because I noticed as I skipped like the young people dancing, I get less of those now. So, okay. I don't know. It's a whole social engineering platform, though. I mean, very designed. I'm more intrigued by it than I am like really consuming it for entertainment purposes. So.
Well, another thing that it's made me realize is TikTok is such a logical extension of social media, its evolution, and they've learned how to draw us in even more.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to be able to get out of this. If I start to build a following or something, or if that was my intent, like I can barely stay off Instagram. And Instagram now, when you compare it to TikTok, it's such a static.
Yeah.
Like it barely got any dynamic.
A slideshow? Come on.
So if I'm having problems with that, TikTok, I can't even, I do feel like I'm missing out on the newest, biggest thing, but then I remind myself like George Carlin didn't have TikTok,
Yeah, and it's so, I mean, the newest, biggest thing is some stupid new TikTok dance or challenge trend that means nothing. It means nothing, right?
Yeah.
Man. So how long have you been doing stand-up, DJ?
2009, 11 years.
Wow.
This is by far, I don't know when you started, but this is by far the longest I've gone without stand-up since I started.
Yeah. Well, I've only been in it I'm in my third year, if you can even count any of this year. But yeah, this has been somewhat brutal. Do you feel like you're going through withdrawals regarding stand-up as well?
I feel awful when I think about it.
Let's really dwell on it then.
I feel like I lost a friend.
Yeah.
My whole identity, and this is, a lot of reflection that's been happening over the last, whatever it is, 5 months. My identity is a stand-up comedian.
Right.
That's who I am, and I love it. I love when somebody's like, "What do you do?" and I get to say I'm a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And I don't just love it for being able to say it. I love going out and hanging out with friends, and I love watching a friend do a set and then be like, "Hey, I like what you did with that joke. Maybe try that." I love everything about it, and I
Yeah.
miss it. I miss
Yeah.
it a lot.
So what drew you to doing stand-up?
I just knew. I just remember. I was just talking to my mom about this a few days ago. She said she remembered when I was like, I think she said 13 or 14, telling her like I have to do stand-up. And she also said I said the most narcissistic thing, which I vaguely remember because I used to write it in a journal too, that the world is going to know my name.
That's
Which
great.
I believe that the Unabomber said the same thing.
Did he?
That,
Well, yeah,
he
and
might
we've
have, the sentiment was the same.
different reasons. We've also been watching Hamilton on Disney Plus, and I'm pretty sure Lin-Manuel Miranda said the same thing on behalf of Alexander Hamilton. So
Really?
yeah, the world's
Okay.
gonna know your name is I think one of the lyrics, and so that it's in
Okay.
the ether. That thought, it's out there.
Yeah. No, I just,
So is
I
it just pure
loved it.
narcissistic fame, or why did you approach your mom with this? I'm going to be a stand-up. What do you remember?
I think it's that Bruce Springsteen feeling of I got to bust out of this town. Like I grew up in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada,
Yeah.
and it's not a bad city by any means, but I just remember feeling like angsty, like I gotta get out of here, which isn't that uncommon of a feeling, of course, but
Sure.
and I just loved making friends laugh. I did a lot of public speaking when I was young,
Mm-hmm.
and I just loved it. And then I tried it for the first time when I would have been my second year of university. I was like 20.
Okay.
And then I finished school. I did it a few more times, probably like 6 or 7 times through the next few years of university. And then as soon as I graduated, moved to Toronto, which is the biggest scene in Canada for stand-up.
Sure.
And I got to it in 2009. But I've always wanted to do it, which is another reason I'm feeling like I lost a friend, because it's not just the time I've been doing it from 2009. It's like when I was a kid thinking about it too,
Yeah.
And
sure.
I want to say too that people are dealing with way worse things as a result of this pandemic. So, that's my own personal thing, and it's so, it's light years away from being the most important thing on the planet. But that's my thing.
Well, sure, but it's like everyone deals with. I don't know. I want this to come out right, in the sense that it could always be worse. It could always be worse, but that doesn't change the fact that what you're going through is also difficult, right? And difficult for you, and I think there are lots of people out there that can't do their job, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And that's a difficult thing to have to face, because so much in at least America, I don't know how it is in Canada, but in America, a lot of identity is based on profession.
Yeah, I'd say it's the same in Canada. I think a lot of the world, right? You go to a party, people, what do you do? That's the first
in capitalist countries, maybe not for the socialists. Maybe they're fine.
Yeah.
I'm a comrade. That's all I am.
Yeah, exactly.
So how big is Kitchener, Ontario? Is it a big-ish city, or is it?
It's. I think it might be like the 10th biggest city in Canada.
No kidding.
Well, I'm gonna say 20th biggest.
Just cover your bases.
I remember looking at a list and being surprised by how high up it was, because the population's only like 200,000. But it's not a small town, but it's it's a city.
Yeah. And as far as the comedy scene goes, you said Toronto's the biggest one. I feel like that fits because Toronto's just a big city in Canada. But the JFL is in Montreal. So how do the two scenes, do they overlap? Is it like a New York, LA kind of feel to Toronto and Montreal?
It would be more like a LA to Austin type feel, where Montreal's got a scene, but it's not on the same level. So the festival is huge. Yeah. And then the rest of the year, there's not that much going on. There's one club. There used to be 2, and then the other one burnt down. Mm-hmm. So there's one club. There's a few independent shows, but no, Toronto's like the big game, and then Vancouver, and then Montreal's like a distant third.
Got
maybe
it.
not even third. There's a few other cities that might be vying for that spot. So Montreal's got
Yeah.
the prestige of the festival, but beyond that, Toronto's got way more going on.
And as far as the club chain goes in Canada, I've heard Looney's is kind of the big spot up there. Is that accurate, or is that not the big chain up there? Because like there are improvs, down here that I feel like
Which one?
Looney's, is that not one in Canada?
No. Yuck
Looney's?
Yucks is a big one up there.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of Yuck Yucks.
No. Are you talking about the Looney Bin? There's
Yeah.
the Looney Bin here in America. There's a few of those.
No, that's not what I'm thinking of. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
I'm trying to
I
think of a
probably
name that
Yuck
might be
Yucks
similar.
is the one in Canada. Oh well, who knows? You and I are probably the only ones who care to really delve into this anyway. Did you do most of your work here in the States then, or in Canada, or has it been split kind of in between?
No, I haven't been working too much in Canada the last few years. I moved here at the end of 2016, and I made a pretty concerted effort to try to make it work here. I go back to Canada for corporate gigs, or I filmed a special there last 2 years ago. But other than that, and then I'll work like some clubs around my hometown, and a couple clubs that I really like. So I probably do 6 club weekends there a year, and then the rest is here.
Got it. And was a part of the move to the States to pursue stand-up more seriously? Or did you come down for acting, or did you come down for something else?
No, I was 100% stand-up, yeah.
Yeah.
When I said the world is going to know my name, I didn't just mean 35 million people in Canada.
Well, Canada's a great place.
It's great. Yeah. But nobody, even Canada doesn't care if you make it in Canada. You got to make it in America for Canada to care about you.
Yeah, gotcha. Interesting. So you're doing the Jim Carrey move. Reason he left Canada too. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't even know Jim Carrey's Canadian. That's what you got to do. You got to get so big in America that they're surprised when they learn you're Canadian.
Yeah, exactly. And disappointed, right? All in the same. No.
You mean we didn't produce you?
Come on. You kidding me? So in talking to some other comedians about their withdrawals, because it's not, I hate to break it to you, it's not just a you problem, TJ. But a lot of comedians,
the community I miss.
Is they're looking to podcast. They're doing more podcasts. They're either starting one, or they're making one with a friend, and it feels like you and Mike Perkins had a great podcast going, reviewing reviews, still out on Apple Podcasts. What have you thought about restarting it up? Because it ended in April? It's like right before.
I think so.
Yeah.
It ended kind of right when it all went down. Yeah, because our last podcast episode, we were talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
I just didn't really want to review reviews anymore. Like,
what?
That was the concept of the show, obviously, and Mike's amazing, and we had a great time, and I miss hanging out with him. But in terms of the actual podcast, it didn't. We did it for a year. So I feel like we gave it a good, because I was having some second thoughts. Again, nothing to do with Mike, because I loved hanging with him, but I was having some second thoughts about the concept in my head.
Sure.
And how much I actually enjoyed it. And then I said, no, let's do a year so that you can at least see if maybe there's just some kinks to be worked out. So
right.
I just, and even I have another podcast, which is similar to yours, and it's called Definitely DJ, and it's conversational.
Yeah.
And I've kind of put that one on hold too. And it's, that one might come back. It's just kind of, I'm trying to treat this like a period of reflection, because I didn't feel I had anything to contribute in a conversation. So I did a couple episodes of Definitely DJ, and I just felt like I was spinning my wheels. I don't know. It just felt like I just needed to the world was on fire, and I maybe should just take a step back. That's all.
Yeah.
But I'm jonesing to do I'm taking the month off of July. I'm not just taking time off, like I'm writing stuff, trying to
Sure.
flex that muscle, strengthen that muscle. I'm not just flexing over
Well,
here.
you know, every time you perform, it's a flex, DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do want to start being creative again. I feel like I needed to miss it, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. And I think, a lot of artists go through periods of reflection and kind of reinvention even, right? With projects they work on. So
don't you feel like there's less reflection happening now in society?
on a grand scale, yeah, I guess I've never really thought about it in that respect. I've always thought of it more as a issue of kind of personal responsibility kind of going away, but I think that coincides with reflection. Absolutely. But yeah, I've never
What do
really
you
thought
mean
about it that
personal
way.
responsibility?
I mean, I feel like the world has become more of a victimized haven. So if you have been a victim, then you are protected, which is good until there's this motivation to be a victim, if that makes sense. And I think there are incentives for people to try to be a victim.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I'm not including like Black Lives Matter in that. Obviously they have been victimized and that they deserve protection. I'm just saying that people, in general, I think when you get into let's definitely protect the victims, there are those who take advantage of that kind of a system and say, well, I've been a victim too, even though they, arguably may or may not have been, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the victimization. People definitely, not just victimization, but people like to put themselves in some sort of box. So like there's less nuance. Like the victims are over here, the perpetrators are over here.
Sure.
Left is here, right is here, red is here, blue is here. And I feel like there's not a whole lot of middle path happening in many conversations. And I think that might have to do with the reflection. Like
Yeah.
most of my favorite artists, like I'm a big Leonard Cohen fan, musician that I just love him. But he would, or Dylan even, Bob Dylan,
Sure.
you wouldn't hear from him for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then another album would come out. He wasn't on, and I know it was a different time, but even now, like Dave Chappelle's not on anything. He comes and he says what he has to say, and he's given it serious thought and consideration, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's a little bit of a dearth of reflection happening because everybody feels the need to like mainline content into the veins of, and I'm talking as a content creator, so
right.
There might be people like my wife isn't on social media a lot, so I know there's people just living their life, and I think this is more from a creation perspective. There's so much pressure to just like create that there's not as much time for the diamond to be, for the coal to be turned into diamond. Is it coal that turned into a diamond?
Yeah, with a lot of pressure and heat. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember listening to a conversation Jerry Seinfeld had, I think on the Tom Papa and Fortune Feimster podcast.
Yeah.
Where, I guess Tom was asking Jerry essentially, which is a funny way of putting that, not in a cartoon way. He was asking him if Jerry was going to put out another special. And at the time, I don't think Jerry was really planning on it. I think after the podcast happened, he started talking with Netflix about comedians in cars, plus, his previous special, and then putting out another one. But he made this comment that basically said, I think there are too many comedy specials out right now, and they're not special anymore. So if I do one, it's going to be with material that I believe in and think is truly special. So, and I think there's a lot of reflection that goes into, Dave Chappelle's comedy, as you mentioned, Jerry Seinfeld's comedy. And yeah, I think we all could do better in reflecting on choices we've made and choices we should make, aspects of ourselves that we should improve or highlight.
And I think that when you consume too much content, this has been on my mind so much. when I consume too much content, I can't really decipher what was my own creation and what I'm just taking from the input.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
so then when it comes time to actually create my own stuff, I never know what's coming from an original place and what I actually was able to create, because I
Yeah.
take in so much information, and in 10 minutes you're taking in more, than your grandpa took in the Sunday paper. You're like,
Sure. Yeah.
and another thing is you're reading so much editorial and not the original fact. So like you read the newspaper, there's editorial at the beginning, some opinion. Most of the stuff you're reading is you're taking in the facts of the world, and then you're able to create your own opinion. But Twitter, you're looking at the facts, you're looking at the editorial and the opinion before you even get the fact. It's all part of the same package. So you don't even have time to make your own opinion. You're immediately either agreeing or going against what you read.
Yeah. Well, and with Twitter in particular, there's a very big pressure to also jump in the conversation, right? Pick a side, do it as quickly as possible, and hopefully you're on the right side. Because if you're not, you got to delete a tweet, and hopefully no one's retweeted it or commented, because then everyone knows.
Yeah.
A
lot of pressure.
Yeah, crazy. So what do you think has led to this lack of personal reflection?
I can only speak for myself, I think. I think I have an idea of society in general, but or North American society, but for myself, I think it is lack of impulse control. And so many things are put in front of you that even if you say no to one thing, another thing's coming. So, myself, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Netflix, Amazon, these are all just content that's keeping you from sitting there and thinking. Like I try to meditate.
Yeah.
Or I try to go for a walk even, and it's like a fight with myself to like leave my phone on the table. Like you're gonna go for this walk and you're just gonna think, and my brain's like, no,
I can't be left alone.
Yeah. So I think it's just they present these enticing distractions, and I find it very hard to build the strength to completely push it away. Even if I'm like, no, I'm going to take a little break, that means a half hour.
Yeah.
And reflection is not done in a half hour. Like loneliness is, I was lonely sometimes when I was a kid. Not lonely, I was alone.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to not be alone now, and you don't really realize that would be exactly what you need or want, because you don't give yourself the time to make that discovery.
Yeah, and put things in perspective. Yeah. I guess my outlook on it too is that I generally sense, at least with our generation, there's a move away from organized religion, which is a big reason why I've started this podcast, to kind of figure out perhaps why, if that's a good thing, maybe what there is that's good about that move and what there is that's negative about that move. And as you're talking, I'm wondering if some of that is also part of this negative move away from, part of the negatives of the move away from religion. Is that my experience with religions is that it is very self-reflective. You need to look at aspects of yourself. Sometimes it's negative. You need to look at the bad things about yourself to improve. But there's also, look at the good things about yourself. And I wonder if our move away from religion is also contributing to this lack of self-reflection. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you agree, disagree?
I think it's a very good point. I think that I would probably agree. I don't want to speak out of turn because I haven't given much thought to that connection, but I think that's probably a pretty valid point. I think that pretty much every religion, the dominant, I guess that's the word I'm looking for, the prevailing religions, they all have some element of reflection embedded in, whether it's prayer or meditating or even just going to a service and sitting there for an hour. I guess, yeah. I think that religion now is being supplanted. It's being replaced by because I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of religion. That's why I'm trying to choose,
Sure.
no offense.
No, none taken. I mean, I only started all of them, but that's fine.
But I think that the positive things that I do like about them, which are structure and reflection, are probably their absence is being felt right now, because they're replaced, and they're replaced with I think 99% of everything that's filling our brains right now is toxic. I really do. I think it's a really toxic world out there right now, and you don't realize because it's all hitting you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling lately. I feel like we're in a pretty dark place in terms of what we're, garbage in, garbage out when it comes to what you eat, what you put in your brain. I think we're putting a lot of garbage in our brain.
Yeah. Yeah. In very small digestible bites, right? That's the problem I see mostly with, TikTok or Instagram or Facebook is and Twitter, you're limited to 40 characters or whatever it is now, 140, I guess.
I think it's 280. I think it was 140.
Yeah. What kind of nuance, it's very difficult to, so yeah, I totally agree with you. That's very interesting. What were you were raised religious or no?
I was raised Catholic so it's actually pretty interesting because we went to church when I was young, up until I was like 7 or 8, I think. Maybe a little bit older, maybe 9, 10. And then we kind of just stopped going because my mom didn't really feel religious at all. And then my dad now in his later years is acting more religious, but I don't remember him being particularly religious. So we stopped going. Yeah. And then my parents split up when I was 13. Okay. And I went with my mom to a new neighborhood, and both of my older sisters were out of the house. So it was just my mom and I. And I wanted to be religious. I felt like I wanted, because I was getting confirmed. I was in the 8th grade. And so our priest was telling us, this isn't just some, superfluous thing. Like, this is a calling to come back to God. Yeah. So I remember feeling that intensely and telling my mom, like, we need to find a church and I want to start going regularly. Yeah. So we went, and my mom was like, I don't want to go to church.
Yeah. Jeez. Don't drag me. You said you wanted to be a stand-up. Why do you want to go to church? Yeah.
So we went to a couple, and it was so short-lived. I think we went to a few, and by like the third, I was like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Never mind. I was wrong.
I just wasn't feeling it. There was no spirit filling me every time I left. All 3 of the churches we went to, I just kind of felt like a guy was talking. Yeah. And maybe I didn't go to the right church or something, but I never felt like the initial impulse I felt where the priest was like, let God find you, find your way to God. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. That I didn't feel that when I actually went to the churches.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did you go to any Mormon churches? Because if not, I can tell you didn't go to the right church, DJ. That's just...
I don't know if there's a strong Mormon population in Kitchener.
I don't know. I served my mission in the Quebec province. So.
Oh yeah.
And there was.
Where were you?
So I started my mission in Gatineau, which is just on the border of Ontario and Quebec.
My dad grew up like on the other side of the border.
Oh, no kidding.
In Ontario, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Gatineau. How old were you when you served your mission?
How old? I was 19 and a half when I went out.
Because there's legal drinking age in Quebec is 18. 8.
I think a lot of them treat it like it's 8 for sure.
But so many people go over there for like the strip clubs and everything. So
no
Quebec
kidding. Sure. It's very loosey-goosey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in Gatineau for a bit. No, we steered
No.
clear of all of that for the better, I think. But yeah, Gatineau, I did some time in Montreal, did some time in Quebec City, and did some time in Rimouski.
Did some time is so funny just because.
Yeah. I chose those words pretty carefully. No, it was a great experience. I really liked it a lot. Very beneficial.
But let me ask you something, because you're 19. When I was 19, man, I mean, I I just was led by that little guy down there and
Sure.
alcohol. Like I was your typical,
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're 19, you're on your, you're with a few other guys, right? On
So
your mission?
yeah, I mean, you have a companion for whichever area. I mean, okay, so the mission is kind of divided into 6-week chunks, which we called
Mm-hmm.
transfers. At least this is the way it was done when I was serving my mission. So you would have a companion for at least 6 weeks. That guy would be your companion
Mm-hmm.
for 6 weeks. It might be longer, and it might be only 6 weeks, but you're kind of moved around, right? And you're not with the
Mm-hmm.
same person for the whole 2 years that you're out. You're with different people, but always, I mean, typically one, maybe two companions at a time. I only ever had one other companion.
And you didn't have any experiences with companions in Quebec that were like, come on, let's party. Like, I'm just thinking that many young guys, and I know you're
Yeah.
all Mormon, but isn't anybody being like, come on?
I mean, I
Isn't,
heard about some nothing too nefarious, but I think the most risque thing I heard about was a companionship in a small fishing village, similar to Rimouski, small town somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, where they were getting, they got along really well with some of the other youth members of the church, some people about their same age, and they ended up having like this. Uh, One of the members wanted to film a documentary about the missionaries. So and this was already a huge red flag, it was this young woman wanting to film missionaries going about their daily life, but that meant she was following these, men around, and they're all about the same age. So that can only create feelings and issues, right? But they ended up getting together and having a viewing party, essentially a premiere of this documentary at her house. And I remember hearing about it that the parents were not present, which was like a huge no-no. So they ended up getting
yeah.
in some trouble. They weren't kicked out of the mission field or anything. But I do remember the mission president calling them in, having a stern talking with them. So they were
That's
certainly moved out of that
legitimately,
area. What's that?
that's legitimately the most nefarious story you have.
Yeah. I mean, I heard about, other people, but that was the most nefarious one. Yeah.
How is the Mormon faith strong enough to overcome the sheer stupidity and horniness of a 19-year-old male brain?
I mean, it doesn't for everybody, right? That's certainly not that. That was just an experience from my mission. There are definitely other issues that other missionaries have faced. But I think this gets to kind of the personal aspect of the Mormon faith, and what I think is really positive about religion in general is that it's asking a lot of you individually. And you might think the promises are made up or hocus pocus or whatever, but for those who, like myself, truly believe in the promises of the religion, it's a pretty motivational force when you couple that with legitimately sincere feeling and belief.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a
No,
lot, just psychologically and so, I could discredit it all, right, by saying, well, it's a social thing. That's why you're with a companion who's, things are less likely to happen in groups of two than they are just on your own. And there's a huge social stigma. If you're sent home early from your mission in the Mormon church, there's a lot of social stigma that comes with that.
and what's that look like?
I mean, there's an increased suicide rate in young men that come home from their missions early because of social stigma. I
Wow.
mean, in day-to-day life, it's not probably anything that's too overt, but there are those circumstances or experiences where young men come home from their missions early, and everyone in the ward, the congregation, you sort of know they only come home for a few reasons. One might be mental health issues. One might be this worthiness issue. And another might be they just couldn't hack it and they wanted to come home,
Yeah.
And all of those are looked on, I think, kind of equally negatively, unfortunately. So, you get parents that are like, oh, are you dating the Lawrence boy who came home early? Well, he's kind of a bad egg. I don't want you hanging out with him. And, that perpetuates throughout the congregation fairly quickly, because everyone knows. And then you feel alone. You feel alone amongst people that you thought were supposed to love and support you and help you through trial. And what else do you do?
That's a pretty strong incentive to stay on the straight and narrow when you're doing your mission.
Right. So there's a huge social stigma. Not all of them obviously kill themselves, but a lot leave the church after coming home because it's just easier to, either they don't feel the Spirit at all, and that's why they leave their mission early, or that's why they do what they do to get out of the mission when they're on the mission.
Yeah.
But, there's a pretty heavy social stigma coming home as well. So.
Interesting.
Yeah. But, the quote from Joseph Smith along these lines is, if a religion doesn't ask all of its members or of its followers, it's really not a religion worth following, So sounds kind of culty, I guess, but that's, if you get right down to it, if you want to evoke change, you need to ask a lot of people, I suppose.
Yeah, you in or you out.
Yeah. But on the flip side, it's sort of like, what better way to spend the throes of adolescence than out trying to do good? The whole point of the mission is not necessarily to get people to convert, but to give people positive experiences with the Mormon faith. So, a lot of my mission was not, a lot of it was proselyting, but a huge chunk of it was just doing service. We spent, I don't know, at least 20 hours a week in a food kitchen every week, serving to those in need in communities where we were. We would teach English classes to those in French-speaking Quebec. A lot of Chinese students actually wanting to learn English for free. So, we're trying to help in ways that we can, and that's better than sleeping around, right?
Maybe, I don't know. I gotta think about this a bit longer. So.
Yeah. Was there any catalytic moment or things that pushed you away from religion, or was it more just, I maybe feel kind of cheated or lied to that this wasn't all that I hoped it had been?
Well, there's two forces of my personality running into each other here. And one is some of the stronger beliefs that I hold. And the other is my desire to not offend anybody or hurt anybody. So
so let me just say this, DJ. I've had people on here who are full-blown atheists. I don't think anybody that I've had on hates religious people. If that's where you fall, I would love to hear about it.
Been wanting to say this to you for a while, Seth. Shut your face.
Yeah, exactly. If that's where this conversation goes, this is what I've asked for. I just want an open, honest conversation. But, I've had people on here who definitely think religion is incredibly silly. Some who've been, as honest as to say they think it's even detrimental, to try to stifle children into thinking that sexuality is bad or whatever. And I think there are some misconceptions about religion in those statements, but my point is, say whatever you want. You be as honest as you want to be about your feelings on religion. I'm not going to be offended. And this is a podcast more for people to get those thoughts out in a safe space. Because I think those on my side of the fence religiously who love religion are sometimes myopically focused on how good religion is and don't notice the bad with an organized religion.
Yeah. I guess my problem with religion is I don't buy into it. I don't derive any sense of higher purpose in my own life by thinking that there's a God controlling the universe and looking over me.
Yeah.
None of that rings true for me.
Sure.
And I would never say it's wrong or right, because purely on a statistical level, I mean, you got, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, all of them, billions around the world. So, billions of people aren't morons.
Right.
I mean,
see what you're
hundreds of
saying.
millions are morons, but
Yeah, but billions? No way. There's got to be
no, but
something to the religion thing. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I think it does help people. Certainly, it's hurt people throughout the centuries, or violence has been, acted upon in the name of religion, whether that was actually the religion that was a full reason for it. But it's not
right.
it's not 100% the bad guy, and it's not 100% the savior. Like, here's something that I had a hard time with was,
Yeah,
well, I'll use Mormonism as the example.
sure.
Is you're in America, and then you're throughout the world. You're in Canada and like the Philippines, and you've spread throughout the world, but
Yeah,
you're not everywhere.
right.
So if you were born in India, there would be no chance, or a 0.001% chance you would be a Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you would believe, you and I might be having this conversation in India on your podcast, about what great heights that you've been inspired to by your Hindu belief.
Sure.
So my thing is, it seems so circumstantial
Mm.
that I can't fully buy into it because it's so geographically contingent. It's so your parents, what they believed and what they teach you.
Yeah.
So I can't fully buy into it because I guess my parents didn't fully knock it into me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feel a particular attachment to one religion, and I don't feel an attachment to any beyond that. But I see,
Yeah.
like, you're such a nice guy, and it's so clear that your Mormon faith gives you a strong kind of, from what I know about you, you got
Sure.
that center. You're grounded in something, and I think that's really important. And I think that I would rather have that than to be, unmoored and just out at sea without a paddle. So
Yeah.
I see the value in it, and I see if it makes you, well, I joked when you said I'd rather be helping people and being at the food kitchen than
Right.
having,
Right.
the example you used was like, than having sex or messing around or whatever.
Right.
Again, I need more time to think about that particular comparison, but it's better than sitting at home playing video games and only thinking about yourself,
Sure.
or being sad and alone and feeling like that nobody cares about you in this world. So I do see the benefits of religion. I myself don't feel particularly moved by it, and I am often angered when I see it used for ill intent.
Sure. Yeah, we agree wholeheartedly on that. I think that's really unfortunate.
I think I have strong opinions on it, but I'm trying to tame any strong opinions I have about anything. Not just for you.
Just in general.
I mean, I saw this bumper sticker 2 days ago that I was like, fuck, everything I've been thinking lately was just summed up by a bumper sticker. But it said, don't believe everything that you think.
Oh.
And that's exactly,
interesting.
I'm like such a product of what my parents taught me, what I learned in Kitchener, what I learned in Toronto, what I've learned in LA.
Yeah.
But it's such a big world, and I've traveled enough that you meet people who are in this completely, like, a world that you can't even imagine growing up in.
Right.
And you're like, that's another human on this planet.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
We're like really similar, but you're living this completely.
Totally different.
Think of the tribes stumbling out of the Amazon right now because the Brazilian government's burning their home up, and they're like, what the hell's going on out here?
Yeah.
We're the same species.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely.
I don't know, man.
No,
I think
it's
I
true.
need to do a couple ayahuasca trips and just dive into this fully.
I love it. So, I mean, with all that in mind, I'm curious where you think this drive you had at 13 to be christened or to find a religion, where did that come from for you? Was that more just a social drive, kind of a psychological thing that your previous parishioner or, priest had instilled in you?
I think enough people going to Catholic school, and with this concerted effort during the confirmation time, I had enough Catholic forces like pushing me towards it.
Gotcha.
And I wanted to believe, I was like Mulder. I was like, I want to believe what if there's this magic thing on the other side of this transformation that I just need to I need to do it, and then maybe I didn't do it long enough, but I realized it wasn't going to be. So I think that's what drove me, is the idea that maybe there's something I will unlock.
Yeah, I can understand that. So where do you stand on like an afterlife? Do you even think about it? Does it even matter to you? Or is there something after?
I don't think so.
Yeah, there's nothing.
This is where I go, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. So
there's something you hope for? Do you hope for something after? Or is that?
I can't even comprehend what an afterlife would look like. There's no way in my mind I see it being anything like what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
If there's even an afterlife. I don't even know if afterlife, I know I feel like I'm getting weirder as this conversation goes on.
No, but I love it. I don't care if you get as weird as you want. Yeah.
I love talking about the shit, and I realize I haven't talked about it with anybody. I mean, my wife and I talk about stuff, but we don't sit down for an hour and be like, tell me about your thoughts on religion and the afterlife.
Right.
But I just don't see it being, if it does exist, I don't think I see it existing. If it does exist, I don't even think the word afterlife will describe whatever the hell it is. Like, I don't even think whatever that is, the iteration of ourselves that we are, will even know that we were in whatever this world is.
So you don't think there'll be a continuity of consciousness? It'll be something completely different if there's anything at all.
Yeah, and I don't think the current soul I have or consciousness I have will be aware that it's a continuous thing. If it is continuous in a more kind of physical, on a physics level, if it is, honestly, man, I have no idea.
Yeah, well, and fair enough.
I plan on just feeling like when I take my last breath, it's over. That's kind of how I'm gearing my mind towards it.
Yeah, and then whatever there is, if you're conscious of it, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to die.
No? Are you afraid of death?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it drives a lot of what I do. And I think that that's a big reason this time off stand-up is killing me right now, because I'm like, I only have a limited lifetime.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything with these months right now.
Right. Sure. Other than, I mean, you are trying to improve yourself with personal reflection and a refocusing, which is very admirable. That's good. I think that's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does coronavirus scare you though? Because it poses this threat of death? Are you scared by COVID-19 or no?
I still take I feel like I'm 34 years old. I feel like I would be able to tough out whatever it is, but that's kind of illogical, because there's been some pretty healthy people younger than me even who have had it. So
I'm supposedly healthy, DJ. Who knows? No. Yeah.
I'm supposedly healthy too.
Point
I don't know.
Taken. Yeah.
But I am a little scared of it. It's a national or global health crisis that scared me more than any that I've ever been through.
Yeah, sure.
Like when I go to the grocery store,
for us.
No, exactly. I don't think
the housing market crash is very different from this.
Yeah, and I wasn't even. That was 2008. I wasn't thinking about.
Yeah.
I was unemployed at that time, but I didn't know why the hell that was. I wasn't thinking this is because of the housing
what happened?
crisis.
Everybody's on my level now? This is great.
But I feel scared. I think about it when I'm out now. Like if somebody coughs or sneezes, I'm like, ugh. And I just think about like when I'm 70, how that's going to feel. Like it's scary to be an old person or somebody with a compromised autoimmune system. Like that's scary as hell.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think some of that fear comes from, I guess, an insecurity or an unknowingness about what happens after death?
I was wondering, as I said it out loud to you, I'm like, is that the connection? Do I need to find God and believe in the afterlife?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, if I believe there's an afterlife and that a beautiful, warm God was going to embrace me in his,
Yeah.
you know, I'm
Right.
thinking about it now. Oh, yeah. I
It'd be
hope
great, right?
that would be amazing. That might be part of it. But I'm scared of death, but I also love life.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah.
expecting anything on the other side of it. Like I wake up every day and I'm like, another day. Amazing. What a treat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's some people I've talked to who, believe similar to you in that, like, there's nothing afterward, and they actually find that really comforting, which I don't understand, but they find it really comforting that there's not this overlord judging them all of the time and wait, you know what I mean? Like, because with religion, there's kind of this impending judgment day, this impending, are you in heaven or are you not? And what does that mean? And what do you have to do to get there? And they find it more comforting just be like, nah, none of that is out there. So we just have a good life here and that's it.
I agree with that. I don't
Yeah.
need because God sounds so judgy in every religion.
Sure. I mean, there are aspects of that, I suppose. Yeah. But we're all kind of judgy too, right?
Yeah, but I like to think I'm a good guy, but according to any religion, I don't think I'm getting into heaven.
Yeah. You don't think you're a good enough person to get into heaven?
I
think
do.
You are. Yeah.
If I created heaven, I'd be the first guy I let in.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm saying, like, you can't drink under Mormonism, right?
Right. You cannot drink alcohol.
I'm out. I'm not making it to heaven.
Well, I mean, there is a path of repentance in the Mormon faith that extends beyond the grave,
Yeah, but there's that judginess. Now I got to repent for having a beer?
Well, if you're impure, if you're not letting the Holy Spirit in because you're letting the devil's drink in, then yeah, there might be aspects about yourself you need to change.
Yeah, and I guess if I had gone down that path earlier, I would maybe agree with you because I would think of all the amazing experiences I had when I wasn't drinking and that took me down the right path. But instead, I'm sitting here where I've had a lot of fun experiences when I drank and
sure.
But I did a lot of stupid stuff too. So I do see the evil of drinking.
Yeah.
But I still am happy I did it, and I wouldn't want to repent for it.
Wow. Well, then there you go. I guess you're stuck.
I don't want to repent. I don't want to leave the American government checking on my whereabouts on my phone and taking my money and my taxes every year, and then I finally escape that, and then there's some god dude waiting for me for the next level of
to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of cool with I'd be cool if it was just done, and like, it's over, like, in every sense of the word. I don't mind that it's over because I don't exist.
Right. Well, it's just no consciousness, right? So yeah, totally over.
Oh God, that sounds so scary.
I mean, you could come to my end of the pool, DJ, where there's a warm, loving Heavenly Father and Mother waiting to welcome you home.
I would love to, Seth. But, and again, this isn't disrespectful, I don't believe it.
Yeah, and that's fair.
I'm not trying to disrespect you, but I can't, it's not here for me.
Yeah, no, I get it. The thing that I love about my faith is that whether or not people, like you, believe it or not, that's just the reality. They're going to be there waiting for you, and that's okay that you don't think that that's true.
Can you take a guest? Can I come with you? And you just kind of be like, this is my buddy DJ.
Yeah. So here's a fun...
It's cool. You got to believe me.
Right. Here's probably the most interesting aspect, I think, about my faith's belief in the afterlife. Okay. So our heaven is very big, and there are different levels in our heaven. And our hell is actually very, very small.
How many square feet we talking here?
I mean, how big can you imagine? It is bigger than you can imagine, this heaven, you know? Um,
And how small is your hell?
Small, it's like, I'd say 2,000 square feet. It's probably a good size home full of just terrible people.
Ooh,
Yeah, tough stuff.
damn.
But so there's this aspect of Mormon afterlife where in heaven, those who attain kind of higher level glory, right, who make it into higher levels of heaven, can actually visit those in lower levels, but doesn't go the other way. So,
Mm.
you know, you reach the end and you're like, hey, I'm not willing to give up drinking, smoking weed, you know, whatever. I'm going to go to this level of heaven. Me, I'm obviously going to go to a higher level of heaven. I can come down and visit you. That's what's cool about it. But you can't come up with me to the VIP suite.
That is a caste system in heaven.
I mean, it's a self-selected caste system, right? You're not put there by anyone but yourself. You choose where you're going to be most happy. That's what we sincerely believe.
Hmm. What are those levels called? I was reading them before you called me.
Yeah, so celestial is the tippity top, terrestrial is the middle, and telestial is the lower. T-less, that's how you remember. Least, telestial.
Celestial. What was the middle one?
Terrestrial.
Terrestrial.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, see, I think humans respond really well to structure.
Sure.
So this heaven idea and the levels and everything,
Yeah.
you know, even Scientology with the different levels you get to while you're here on Earth.
Right.
Yeah, clear.
Right.
I feel like these are human ways of, like, we're such achievement oriented creatures.
Yeah.
Like goalposts, like markers.
Yeah.
That I see that as a really human creation, and I don't know if an all-knowing, omniscient God would create levels and goalposts. Like, again, that's just me. These are the things I have a hard time with.
Right, and I think that's a very fair point. I agree with you. I think we're communicating in sort of our construct of how we make sense of the world right now. It's probably more accurate to really think of them as states of being, not necessarily as particular places or levels that you have, you know?
And that state of being could be altered by a night of drinking.
Right. Well, see, this is the less that I gave you the mainstream. Okay. That's mainstream belief. I think more nuanced interpretation of how the afterlife works. There are some in my faith that believe you can actually move between these levels, in that you can make a mistake at a higher level and essentially, you know, move down, right? Choose, like, you know what, this is not where I want to be. I'd rather do this, I guess, stereotypically bad thing and move to this level of heaven or glory. And others can be like, look, I'm gonna rise above my station and go up. I'm gonna give up these bad things that I liked to do in this previous life, and I'm gonna move on up. That's a less accepted view, but perhaps just as realistic for the afterlife as the other. You ready to move into the formal?
I'm gonna pull up my bootstraps.
You ready to move into the formal what's the deal with Mormons segment? You ready to unleash your questions for me?
I'm ready.
Let's go. What's the
ready.
deal with Mormons, DJ Demers?
What's the deal with Mormons not being able to drink coffee? Is that true?
That is true. And it comes from a revelation in our book of Doctrine and Covenants. So we have the Book of Mormon, which is the stereotype, like the gold plate. That's the book, right? The Book of Mormon translated. The Doctrine and Covenants is a collection of revelations received by Joseph Smith and a couple other more modern day prophets. And one of those revelations is what we call the Word of Wisdom, that includes this phrase that says, hot drinks, no hot drinks for Latter-day Saints. And that has been interpreted as coffee and tea. So not herbal tea, but, like sweet tea or, all the other non-herbal teas out there. I don't know many of them because I've just never really looked. And every herbal tea I've had tastes awful. So I have no interest in the Earl Grey teas. And then coffee. So those have been, that's the hot drinks. I love hot chocolate, hot cocoa, does me good. Love it. Not out loud.
You can have that.
Yeah. So it's not a temperature thing. It is a substance thing. So yeah, cold brew, no cold brews.
Wow. It's kind of funny because it's like they just want you to stay a kid forever. They're like, no alcohol, no coffee, no tea. You stick to that hot chocolate, mister.
I mean, there are a few scriptures in the Book of Mormon that talk about how wonderful children are, and because they just listen to what their parents tell them. I have 3 kids of my own. I don't know which children they're talking about in this scripture, but supposedly children are very submissive and meek. So there are aspects of childhood we should emulate as adults.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
My oldest is 8. Then I have a 5-year-old boy. So 8 is a girl, then 5-year-old boy, and then a 1.5-year-old girl.
That's beautiful. That's a nice little family. Must be fun around the house.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got 4 nieces and a nephew, but no kids of my own.
Yeah. Well, none yet.
Yeah.
Are you planning? Do you think? Do you want? No.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to make a pandemic baby, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, there's nothing better than a pandemic baby.
Another question about Mormonism. Okay, here's one. So you are very accepting. You're having this conversation saying, I don't care what you believe if you're agnostic.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's not fine, but I'm okay with it.
Do you feel a sense of superiority because you have this faith that you so strongly believe in and you believe that it's made your life better? So even though you're having these conversations and you're open-minded, is there a sense of superiority in there?
This is a tough question for me because my comedic persona is trying to play on that. I do think, if I'm going to be 100% honest with myself, there's a little aspect of me that's like, yeah, of course you fear death because there's nothing waiting for you. There's a little bit of that, but in all, I think sincerity, no, I don't think I'm better than anybody who doesn't believe in God or who believes in a God that's different than the God I believe in. Because, I mean, are we good people? Are we really just trying our best to be nice to each other? That's really, to me, what matters most right now, I definitely feel grateful for perspectives that I have and kind of outlooks on, tough things that I've dealt with in my life that I feel like have been improved because of my faith. But does that make me better than anybody else? No, I don't think so.
What was the most doubtful moment you've ever had? Have you had any moments like that?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any where I'm like, well, this one is where I doubted God the most. I mean, there have been, I don't think I ever had a moment on my mission where I thought, this can't be real or this isn't real because no one's listening to me. There were, I don't know. I don't know that I've ever, I guess the only time where I ever feel like, oh, maybe I will just give all of this up is if I ever go into this place of like, if my wife and I get divorced, then what would I do? And I can see myself in that kind of situation being more susceptible, I suppose is the right word, to leaving my faith. I've never really doubted my faith. It's more an issue of doubting how I fit into it, if that makes sense. There have been, like in when I studied for I grew up not wanting necessarily to be a stand-up comedian. I grew up wanting to be a lawyer because, my parents, I got this sense from them that the entertainment industry was not a reliable way in which to provide for a family. And that's sort of, as a man in the faith, like that's your number one kind of responsibility, is to have a career that can provide. So I grew up wanting to be a lawyer and went to law school, and then had to take the bar 3 times in North Carolina, which is not a stereotypically tough bar. So there were moments throughout that period of my life where I was very unsure of myself, but it never hit a place of maybe my faith is wrong. It was more just, I have felt led to this moment, but why have I felt led to this moment? If that makes sense.
Yeah. You still just trusted that it was God that had led you to this moment. You didn't lose faith in that.
Well, I guess that's where, no, I definitely felt like, have I just been personally pushing for this and kind of putting my will in place of God's, or was this God's will that I be here? But it was never like God doesn't exist. My doubt never steered that direction. It just was more a question of, have I misread signals? Have I misread promptings or thoughts or feelings? Has it all just been me pushing for this because I wanted it so badly? I don't know that I've actually come to a decision on that, to be quite honest. The interesting thing is, once I decided to do stand-up full-time and really pursue it while being a stay-at-home dad, there are definitely aspects of my stand-up career, if I can even call it that at this point, that came very easily, actually, much easier than, law school or becoming a lawyer.
So you don't practice law. You're just 100% stand-up.
Yeah. Yep. Stay-at-home dad with the 3 kids, which now is going to become a stay-at-home school teacher. Part of my soul died when I heard all of this.
Oh God.
We're going to make it. We're going to make it through. But so I've moved out of the law completely. Yeah.
Is that frowned upon now? Do your parents think that was a wrong move?
My parents are definitely, they're sort of scared for the insecurity of it all. But like, my wife has a great job, and it's not like I'm being irresponsible. That's the reason I made the move, was so that I could take care of the kids, so that she could pursue her career, which was making financially more than I was. So, for our family, I think it was the right decision for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Before stand-up became an obsolete profession.
Yeah. Before it all died. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know when it's going to come back. That I'm just kind of.
I don't know. I mean, when do you think you're going to get on the cruise ships again, DJ?
I'm never doing cruises again.
Never ever.
Oh, I already decided before this all went down. I couldn't have chosen. I did my last cruise in January. Canceled the 2 I had booked after that. The first big one, what was it? The Princess Diamond?
Yeah, the one that got stranded.
From Alaska to Japan. I was supposed to do that one in September. That was the one I canceled. I wasn't supposed to be on the one that was the actual. Yeah.
But
that was the exact ship I was going to be on in September that I canceled. I did it in January, and I just was like, I can't do cruises anymore. Like, I can't. I just can't.
Yeah.
So I canceled the next 2 I had and said no to 2 more, and then all this went down.
Jeez. Well, it was probably the right move. I don't know how gung-ho people are going to be to get back on cruises anyway.
Well, if you look at the amount of people that are still protesting that they have to wear masks and saying open the economy, even though their states are in the throes of this virus, those are all the people that will be going on cruises.
Yeah, that's true. Which only, I guess, lends credence to Bill Burr's thoughts on population control. I don't know if you've heard that bit. Yeah.
I just watched it yesterday. I've been on a huge Bill Burr kick.
Fantastic.
He's so great. I think he's my favorite.
He's fantastic. For me right now, it's a neck and neck tie between him and Dave Chappelle as my favorite stand-ups.
Agreed. But I don't know who's even touching those 2 guys. Like, Dave Chappelle's 846. I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was terrible, but I hate that he had to make it.
Yeah.
But I love what he did with it.
Yeah. I definitely appreciated what he had to say. And I guess this is too where I feel like people are replacing religion with other things. I feel like I did not watch 846 in the same way that I think a lot of my friends watched it, in the sense of looking to someone for moral direction, you know?
I think you're right. And he touched on that exact point in it.
Yeah.
Why do you guys care what I have to say?
Yeah. And honestly, when he said that, I thought, because they don't have religion, Dave, and they need someone to help them through this.
Religion is absent, and also there's no leadership in the federal government right now.
How dare you say that?
So I meant Canada. Come on, geez.
Right.
Justin Trudeau,
sorry.
you son of a bitch. No, there's just not a lot of there's not a lot of top-down kind of structure happening right now that can be depended upon. So
right.
I think that when the thing is, you have to look up to somebody as your kind of voice of reason, and
yeah,
I don't think he's right about everything. I think a few of the things he said I don't necessarily agree with, but when it comes to talking about like being black in America, I want to know what Dave Chappelle has to say.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. I completely agree. Yeah. Because it is, I mean, it's a foreign world to me. I have no other insight, but I mean, now all of my friends are stand-ups for the most part. So, I feel like I get an insight into some of it through their experiences, but yeah, it was, I think it's a very eye-opening experience to be able to hear someone talk openly, honestly, truthfully about it. And with the way society's going, I feel like stand-ups are the only ones in that position. Politicians can't speak truthfully or honestly anymore. And I don't think a lot of news sources feel like they can either, unless they are doing so from a certain perspective.
Yeah, there's too much emphasis on money. I mean, when it boils down to it, it's money. So they got to figure out what advertisers are going to pay them, and what. Like, I just read this amazing thing that Tucker Carlson, one of his writers, did you hear about this?
No.
One of his writers got fired because it turned out he was under a pseudonym online.
Oh, I did hear about this. Yeah, writing just racist stuff.
Terrible stuff.
Yeah.
Terrible, racist, bigoted stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so I read in this article that
I was so disappointed to find out it was a pseudonym. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it was like Procter and Gamble, Amazon, like big companies said they were going to pull their commercials from Tucker Carlson's program.
Right.
But there's 23 other hours on Fox News, and they were like, well, let's not go crazy here.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, and who knows? I mean, there are other writers on his show too. It wasn't just this one writer that was a nut job. There are other people too.
Well, one person's nut job is another person's perfect writer for the audience they're trying to reach, right?
I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
So, but there's so much money. There's so much, even like politicians, right? On a purely human level, if I make couches and you're running for office and I give you $500,000, like, you better not say a single bad fucking thing about couches, man.
Like, not your couches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But couches in general, don't hurt my bottom line. I gave you $500,000.
Right.
And we just accept that they're allowed to take donations, but like, I'm only human.
Yeah.
And so I don't put these politicians on a higher pedestal or anything. They're only human as well.
Yeah.
Like, of course they got families, they got lifestyles. They probably have 4 mansions they got to keep paying for. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? So I just think
for sure.
that
whereas, people pay Dave to speak the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
So we just need to realign our incentives for why politicians get paid. But I don't think that's really a possibility at this point.
I believe in politicians less than I believe in God.
Oh, yeah. Good. Good. That should be a wholehearted, resounding yes from everyone on this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, you would hope so.
I would
Yeah,
hope
imagine
so.
if somebody was like, yeah, the opposite kind of, it'd be hard to envision that person being a good person.
Very tough. I mean, the people who sincerely think, I don't know anybody who really does, but I've heard of people touting that like Trump is some sort of Christ figure, and that blows my mind. I don't understand
I've
that
heard.
at all.
Well, you can convince yourself of things, right? You got to resolve some cognitive dissonance somehow.
Yeah.
So if he's helping you in some areas, but the fact that he cheats on his wife and has been divorced, if that doesn't align with your religious values, well, you say, oh, well, God works through many different types of vessels, and
Sure.
like he might not be perfect, but he's been sent here to whatever. Like you can figure out a way to wrap your head around it.
No, that's true. That is true. I think that's what the whole society is actually dealing with right now. There's been like, that's what cancel culture I feel like is trying to face. Bad people who have done good things.
Yeah. There's no nuance. We're trying to deal with everything in a black and white way, a binary way, and there's just people have too many. And a big thing is, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I think I read a great quote. It was actually a comment on a YouTube video, but it said, I only get my life platitudes from bumper stickers.
You have
YouTube
a very
comments.
interesting sample set. Yeah, from which you glean knowledge. Yeah.
It's at the beginning of the episode, I was chastising everybody who does garbage in, garbage out. And I'm like, anyway, I saw this bumper sticker.
YouTube comment. Yeah.
But this YouTube comment, well, I was watching a video on quitting social media.
Yeah.
And it was from this guy named Jaron Lanier. And he's the guy he coined the term virtual reality. And he was one of the first guys who invented virtual reality. And he's got a new book out now called, who cares? I'm not pimping at his book. But
how much money did he give you, DJ? Yeah.
No, he's got a book out called, I haven't read it, is the main reason I don't want to say it, but it's something like 10 Reasons to Quit Social Media. And there's what he said was really insightful, but this comment said, if you don't have to pay for a product, you are the product.
Oh, sure. Interesting.
And that really, all these hours I spend on Instagram or whatever, even like when you look at these coronavirus maps and they're able to show everybody's movement, and they're like, from data we tracked from cell phones, you're like, man, we give them everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Like without even thinking twice about it.
Yeah, you gotta love the Patriot Act, baby. That in terms of use documents, man.
Yeah. I don't know how I even got on that though.
I'm sure there was a logical progression that as we go back and listen to this again, we will realize, and it made complete and utter sense.
Oh, you're recording this?
Yeah, this has all been recording, baby.
I thought we were just talking.
Well, we have been. And actually, this has been one of the longer episodes. I've loved it. It's flown by for me.
Yeah, me too, man. I like talking to you. We haven't known each other that long, but yeah.
I know. It's I do feel that there are some people in my life that I have met and just feel instantly connected to for whatever reason. And I feel like you're one of those people, DJ. Just
yeah, you too.
We had a magical moment at Denny's, me, you, Madge, Mark Sipka, and it was one of the highlights.
Was that Denny's?
It was
Coral
what cafe
Cafe?
was it? Yeah, Coral Cafe. That was it. That was it.
What you just said, I had the same thing before we started this podcast. I was like, we had that nice night at Denny's, and then I had to be like, no, it wasn't Denny's, it was Coral Cafe.
See, it's out there in the ether, man.
That night was magical because I think that was the first night meeting you. And
yeah.
And then me and you and Madge, my wife, and Mark Sipka went out, and I told you guys after, it was such a beautiful thing because Madge will come out from time to time. No, most nights I'm not doing comedy on my own, but from time to time, especially if it's an out-of-town gig, whatever. But usually she doesn't really take it too personally, but comedians start talking and she can be left out a little bit. And I'll make an effort to bring her back in. But that didn't happen at all with you guys. You guys were so interested. You and Mark were both interested in Madge, and really,
Yeah,
it was
well, she's fascinating.
She really appreciated it too.
Oh, good. Yeah, it was funny because at the show that you were performing in, I sat right in front of her, and after the show, she made some comment she was talking to that she knew you somehow. And so I turned around, I was like, "Oh, you know DJ? I know Mike. That's why I was here. How do they know each other?" And she's like, "Oh, well, my husband and he go back." And I was like, "Wait, you're married to DJ?" So it was so fun. It was so fun.
She usually just says she knows me and gets a read on how the person reacts.
And then before being like, "Do you like him? Is it okay?" Okay. He's just an acquaintance for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was so fun. It was so fun. See, and I guess these are moments for me, and for religion in general for me, it's a choice. I think a lot of people could look at experiences and people they meet and just say, "Hey, that's coincidence," and that, it's great that we have these kind of serendipitous moments. And for me, I look at them more spiritually guided. I choose to think, we run into people for reasons, and that was such a fun night that it was like, how I can't look at that and not be grateful to a supreme creator who has his eye out for me.
I am also grateful to the universe for that. So maybe it's a similar sentiment, but I feel gratitude for something. Maybe we're experiencing a similar sentiment and I just have a different name, but I agree. Moments like that, I really feel like a gratitude for.
Yeah. Well, and I have the same feeling about our conversation here tonight, DJ. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. And it was good to talk. Like I said, those are the types of conversations that I think I don't have that often, and I think they're important to have. So I think this is a really cool idea for a podcast too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I'd love to have you back on maybe once we're all out of this, see where your personal development ended, see if you've made it back to God, how much of a better person you are. We'll keep tabs on DJ Demers. Anything you want to plug? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Let me think if there's anything I have to plug here.
Any Zoom shows?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I need to plug this deep cavity in my soul with the presence of God.
Yeah, absolutely. You send me your address. I'll have 2 friends over there immediately.
And I will open a bottle of whiskey and I will have them turning their backs on that religion so quick.
You know what? They will let you drink for the first couple meetings. I don't think they will drink. And if they do, I want their names, DJ. I want you to report back.
I'll come out in my robe drinking a coffee like, oh my God, can't start my day without the coffee.
And I guarantee you they'll get stars in their eyes and they're just going to be like, great. If you're willing to talk with us, we can help you get off that devil's drink.
Can I tell you one thing before you let me go?
No. Yeah, of course you can.
I once was really hungover in university. I was like 3rd year. In American terms, I was in college and I was a junior. And
yeah.
And I was super hungover and kind of depressed because I had depleted all my happiness juices from drinking too much the night before,
Sure.
And there's ringing or knocking at the door, and I was like laying on the couch watching football on a Sunday or something. I was like, holy crap. Went to the door, opened it, and it was a Jehovah's Witness.
Beautiful. Our
like a 60-year-old man or something, like an older guy.
Yeah.
And he talked to me for like 5 minutes. And, I didn't convert to his religion or anything, but it brightened up my day. Like we talked, I was like, well, have a great day. And he left. Yeah. And I went back and I sat and I felt better. I was still hungover, but mentally I was in a better place.
Sure.
And so the idea of people being missionaries or trying to spread the good news in a way that he did it, where he wasn't, cramming it down my throat.
Right.
I dig it. You can really connect with people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it's all about just having those connections in a real discussion with somebody, where it's not, the missionary discussions are a little bit tough because you are supposed to go in there with a very clear motive on what you're teaching. But, I think the more important thing is just to connect, brighten someone's day like this 60-year-old Jehovah's Witness did.
Yeah. Oh, and my buddy was the lead on the Book of Mormon for 5 years.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, on Broadway, Sydney, Melbourne, and traveled around America on the tour too.
Yeah.
But, so I saw the Mormon advertisement in the playbill.
Sure.
I went to see him 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
I think Rogan's got a joke about that, but that is pretty cool that the Mormon church did that. You know how to take a joke.
We do. We try to take it in stride, you know?
Yeah. You're
Love
good
it.
people.
Thank you. So are you, DJ. So are you. Think how
Thanks,
much
buddy.
better you'd be with God. No.
Let me do a bit more reading on this, okay? You've converted me a little bit.
We'll touch base again. Man, I've
Sounds
missed
good,
talking
buddy.
to you, DJ. This was so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man, and hope you and your family do well, and hopefully we're out of this soon and we get to hang out.
Yeah, amen. Amen, man. All right, well, tell Madge hi for us.
Will do.
Okay.
See you, brother. Good
Bye.
talking to you. All right, see ya.